Is anyone out there a Costco member or a Sam's Club member? And one of the things that drives me nuts is all the sample stations. Do we really need like 35 sample stations across the entire store? All they do is clog up the aisles and I can't get what I need when I want it. It drives me absolutely nuts. And or not knowing what's at the sample station only to wait and then get up to it and realize I don't even want to try it. But now there's an app I can use to know exactly what's going on in the sample world, and it's more than just Costco. Today, I'm sitting down with Al and Heather, the co founders of Sample Finder, a platform that connects everyday shoppers with in store food sampling events happening right in their own backyard. And if it wasn't enough already to get you excited, they went and gamified the whole damn thing. Honestly, free food just got an upgrade. Trust me, you're going to want seconds on this one. Consider this your free sample of what's coming on this week's episode. I first have to know the quick 30,000 foot of both of your backgrounds, because then ultimately I got to know how someone in graphic design teams up with an accountant to come up with something in food.
That is
So,
hilarious.
so I'll let each of you kind of one at a time. Heather, if you want to start first and give again kind of your 30,000 foot background journey, and then
Yeah.
Al, you jump into yours, and then we'll figure out how the two of you combined.
Okay, so yes, I went to school for graphic design and marketing. And so I have worked at different agencies. I've worked at small agencies. I've been freelance for large agencies. And I do a lot of freelance local work around Philadelphia and other areas. Alongside of that, I've been a brand ambassador for almost or over 15 years. So that ties into the marketing because I love brands. I love brand identity. I love logos. I
Mm.
love seeing how they create different things and go out into the world. And experiential marketing is part of that. I was hired as a brand ambassador by Al Schuster. He's the president, owner, and founder of Polaris Brand Promotions. And so I'll hand it off to you now.
Thanks, Heather. So, got my BS in accounting from St. Joe's University back in 2001. I was doing accounting, it was always a job, never a career for me. I started helping out someone like part-time with their promo staffing, like, hiring brand ambassadors to do liquor promotions. And I loved it. And I'm like, I'm going to start my own company doing that. Kind of my personality, doesn't lend as much, I think, to the accounting world. I never really was passionate about it. So I started Polaris Brand Promotions back about almost 9 years ago, and hired Heather originally as a brand ambassador. Then she kind of came on a part-time role, and then a year ago she was hired full-time as our marketing director. So that's kind of the very crazy winding story of how the last 10 plus years have gone.
Nice. I love it. I love it. It's simplified yet complex at the same time. So we got to dig into that. So yeah, maybe talk about a little bit about Polaris before we dig into the what I
Yeah,
find super
very good.
interesting in the app, and maybe talk about kind of set the stage with Polaris and kind of what you guys do there and what it's kind of morphing into.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, they're not two separate companies. Like Heather is the marketing director for Polaris Brand Promotions, but we are both co-founders. I wanted her to have that title. Um, but yeah, basically, like, Polaris Brand Promotions is the company and Sample Finder is the app that the company is founding. Just so you understand, like, kind of the logic there. So.
Awesome. Because, yeah, we're going to talk all about samples. And Heather, I did want to dig in first because you were talking about you love brands and everything around brands. What drew you into that? Is it graphic? And was it specifically food brands, or has it always been, with graphic design, was it kind of a bit of everything? And I guess what
Yeah.
made you fall in love with the food side or food brands?
A little bit of everything. I love good design out in the world. I love working with different brands of all kinds, small, large, and seeing how they grow throughout time. So the very initial stages of establishing a brand identity is how you're going to show up in the world. and how people are going to see your logo and they need to immediately, or maybe they get a tagline with it, maybe not, but that's how they're going to immediately interpret who you are. So there's a whole color theory of it. There's the fonts you choose, there's the spacing, there's the icon. But then the journey to get that in front of other people is another separate type of marketing. And that's where it ties into like the food and beverage world that I became part of after I started being a brand ambassador. I started seeing as a brand ambassador, I'm explaining why the logo it is the way that it is, or I'm explaining what the products are or what the history of the company is and tie it all together. And that's fascinating. That's why I love promo staffing agencies like Polaris Brand Promotions because it brings that brand identity design and marketing to experiential marketing, which is what the agency is. It's an experiential marketing and nationwide promo staffing agency. It's all together. So I love seeing the brands that I was working with. I was the type of brand ambassador that would do extra research to make sure I knew the background. And when I saw that Al's team, whenever we hire a new brand ambassador, we train them with the same type of prep that I used to do. So I was like, oh, this agency values the brand as much as I do. And they want to tell the stories of the clients. It's not just, I mean, of course it's sales, but it's also the brand awareness and loyalty that we build when we're out in the field. So that's kind of where I started to see the power of experiential marketing after the design part because I love the design part and I love the marketing too, but the experiential and event marketing is that's where it collides and comes together and is exciting for me.
What's the big difference between like promotional staffing versus like traditional? You hear the word staffing, and people in this food industry either most people do not have the best experience with staffing in the food and beverage world, especially if you're in the operations side. But kind of what's the difference between promotional staffing versus the traditional?
It's funny, we were mentioning this on another podcast recording recently that the funniest thing about our industry is that nobody knows we exist. Because we are out there representing other people's brands. Um, and what I mean by that is, we hire all of our independent contractor brand ambassadors. We have over 9,600 in our nationwide database. And, we go out and represent those clients' brands directly to consumers. Um, it, I would guess, I mean, it's really an independent contractor model, almost like an Uber or, something like that.
Mm, okay.
But, in terms of like we hire independent contractors and whatnot, we give them kind of the option of which shifts they want to pick up or not pick up. So it's very much that kind of like that model in our industry, as opposed to like traditionally hiring. Why brands hire us is because it's a lot more cost effective to hire us instead of doing the recruiting, the interviewing, the hiring, the setting them up on payroll when they may wind up only working 1 3-hour event.
Yeah, nobody wants that in their operation, and you see a lot of the independent model these days, especially freelance contract work. It seems to work out for both parties, right? A lot of people who are doing the freelance consulting in that boat. Sometimes it's just easier, right? Hey, I've got a client, they need something, I can pop in, do what I need to do, be an expert at what I am, and then pop out, and I don't have to be on full payroll. And then on the flip side, the client, the brand, they don't have to make that, like you said, that huge investment into people don't understand. It's not just okay, you're hiring and you're paying a salary, it's benefits, it's holidays, it's all that comes with the job. And then to your point, what do you do if a 3-hour event and then it's like, what are they going to do for the rest of the time? Nobody's going to take a job for 5 hours a week. Nobody's going to do that. You know what I mean? Unless you're maybe somebody's retired and just looking for some little bit of side work here and there, which it does happen. But we're talking samples, we're talking promotions. You're representing brands. Like, where would you see your contractors or your brands representing brands out in the real world? So people have a little bit of context. I think people are still kind of like, okay, well, where do they actually do this at?
Everywhere. But I will start by saying a lot of the in-store demos that we do is like 90% of what our activations are. And they're campaigns that can be across the market, all at the same store or in different stores. And you might be going grocery shopping, you walk up, you see a table that's all set up, you see all the branding on the table, you see that there's samples and you're hungry because you're grocery shopping. So you might be like, okay, you know what? I am looking for a new type of snack. Let me just try this. That is where our brand ambassadors excel because now know you are talking to somebody from the actual company. You get to try it before they buy, or representing the company. You get to try it before you buy. You get to ask them questions like, "Hey, is this gluten free?" Like, and you get an answer from a real person instead of having to just like
Right.
silently read the packaging. It gives that personal touch. But we also set up at product launches. We are at, street teams that tackle outside of tailgating parking lots, walking around, and we've walked around with wagons giving out different samples to tailgaters. We've been at parades handing out bags. We've been in tours that set up across different sections of the cities that we represent in. We do a lot, so it can be very customizable. That's one of the biggest hard points, selling points that we have for Polaris Brand Promotions. If you dream it up and it's feasible for our staff and us to train, we will help you out.
Yeah. People listening, think about if you're a Costco member or a Sam's Club member. I'm Costco. So you go in and my God, I don't think I can walk 5 feet without somebody. Hey, you want to try this? 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 And I'm just like, like for me, it's too much. And others, I feel like they go there just to try the samples. And while sometimes it is a great type model because you do get to try it before you buy it. Like, hey, I want to. Oh, that actually looks interesting. I was thinking about buying it, but I don't want to buy a whole pack that's gonna, especially at the big bookstores. I don't want to buy 40 of them and I don't like it, and then I'm stuck with it. So it's kind of in that same vein, but you have product experts in that because I know many times I've come up I'm like, hey, is it this? And they're like, I don't know. Read the package. And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
what?
no,
Can
we
you give me a little bit more? I want to know what's going on. And then I see some other activations where you may actually be part of those where they've got like an actual table and there's actual people and they're interacting with all the folks. And I mean, you could tell it's just more vibrant and you can tell it's not just the little cart stand sitting around. So just to give some clarity context, that's what people are probably most used to seeing it out in the wild. So, okay, we're talking samples, sample finder. How did it come to be? What's the birthplace of the app?
A supermarket grocery store down in Washington, D.C. So here's how this happened. I went down, I live outside of Philadelphia, and yeah, I go out and still do demos. So does Heather, so does the rest of our corporate team. And it was a brand new client, want to make them happy. So I drove down to DC to do a demo at a very important store for them. And it was a really funky layout. It was like 2 levels, it had like 3 entrances, an escalator between the two. And, you know, even though I was in a really high traffic area, I realized that like I was missing probably like 90% of the people going into the store. And it really frustrated me because I was like, I really wish there was a way to promote these events. Now, it isn't to say that promotion doesn't happen. Sometimes the stores will put up like a dry erase board or a chalkboard with their upcoming demos. Sometimes the brands themselves will be like, stop by the store and try our new product. But there's like no one centralized database. And I thought, it would be great to be able to build an app. It was just kind of an afterthought. And I kind of ran the idea by Heather, who's our creative genius in our agency, and said, I mean, Heather's been doing this for, over a dozen years, just like myself. I'm like, what do you think about like if, build the concept first, and then, and she liked it, and and the overall like what about building an app and building this out, and and so she is our co-founder. And as I like to say, I just came up with the idea. Everything else that you see, like, all the creative design, everything like that, that's all Heather's genius right there. So, but that's kind of how it came about, the concept. And God, it was almost like probably like 8 months ago. And the fact that we're like beta testing and we went to CES and NRF, the National Retail Federation, is just kind of incredible.
Yeah, you jumped right into CES because I want to touch on that. That's high tech, shiny. I mean, they've got everything, right? Everything of everything in tech is there. What was the vibe on the floor in the food sector, food tech? I don't know how much you got to walk, but what was the overall sense in the food segment?
In the food segment, so we were in Eureka Park, so we were actually next to a bunch of different sectors. There was everything from like a type of nail polish to gym equipment. So we were technically not in the food section, but we were with other people who are launching. So there was so
Okay.
many exciting ideas that were around. People were, excited to show off. There were demos. It was really fun to be part of that, especially for the people walking around who are like, they also specifically came to Eureka Park to see what was new. And since Sample Finder was new, we got to have some great conversations to share what it is like there. What we did for food is we did set up something called, we called it a sample hour for Sample Finder. And we set up a table like you would see in a grocery store. And we had food and snacks and we handed that out because we wanted to give a direct visual representation of what it's like to interact with an activation that would be on our app.
Okay. Awesome. What kind of feedback did you get from both, customer, end user, brands? What were they saying about the app?
It was exciting. I'll pass this to you in a second, Al. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that what was cool is we actually did speak to everybody from those categories. There were some people who were like, "Oh wow, I know of some brands that could use this." Or CES is in Las Vegas, so there were people from the Vegas entertainment sectors walking around who were like, "Wait a minute, when you launch, please reach out to us." And then there were other users like who I would consider users who were like, "Oh, I want to download this app when it comes out." Then there were investors. It was just a lot of different conversations. Go ahead, Al.
I would say overall the reception was extremely positive. The important thing about to know about CES is you really need to plan out before you go. You really need to kind of pre-show, promote, get your press release out, things like that. So we did have a lot of people who, came up like, oh, I heard about you guys, here and there we had sporadically some people doing that. When people really understood the concept of Sample Finder and what it can and will do for kind of the retail sector as a whole, we received comments like, "Oh, it's genius. This is awesome. This is going to go." Now, granted, appreciate the praise. Fingers crossed that it actually does create, a real disruption in that sector. But overall, I'd say, the reception was really positive.
And maybe we should unpack the actual app and what it does. We've kind of been actually all around the app and talking about samples. Well, actually walk through, right? I got an app, I download it. What does it mean both for a brand, right? Because there's that piece of it. And then what does it mean for the end user, the consumer, right? Because ultimately somebody's got to buy product for this whole thing to work.
True. Well, for the brands, what's super exciting about this and what I love, especially being somebody who's a fan of different brands, is that the goal is to build brand loyalty and to get feedback from your consumers. So, as a person who is opening the app, you would see a list of brands that are activating, which means they're having events in your area where you can get samples. It doesn't have to be just samples, it could also be giveaways, it could be t-shirts if you sign up for a service. So, not just for food and beverage, it can be for anybody, however you would like to creatively use it. But for brands, now your logo is on this person's phone and they can read a description about your company. There's a little option for them to list the products that they have already. And when a user uses it and shows up to an event, now it's in their history. So it really builds that brand loyalty together. The user gets to show up, check in, get points for checking in, get points for leaving a recap. So the feedback that the brands will now get is, did you buy it? We set up all of these demos. Did you buy it? Did you like it? What did you like about it? Do you have any opinions? And it's a great way to have the brands feel like they're hearing directly from the shoppers, and for the end user to be like, yes, I loved it, and this is why. And now maybe you're sending all these 5-star reviews, and the brand can reach back out and be like, special discount for you. It really ties the whole journey of the brands and the users closer together.
Mm. Sounds
Al,
like you.
anything to add?
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
Um, no, I mean, Heather, I think you kind of really hit the nail on the head with all that. We really want to be a disruptor. Um, in the retail space, we're actually kind of launching under the hashtag Save Retail, because we really see how retail is changing and not necessarily in a good way for the consumer. We see a lot more of like online delivery of products and service, well, products, and then you have like grocery delivery on top of that. I can honestly see in about like 10 to 20 years, people not being able to shop in a supermarket anymore. You're just going to order everything on your phone or go to a kiosk, and then someone's going to bring it out to you. And it's really going to kill the opportunity to have like choice. So we're launching under Save Retail to really highlight the fact that like we want to create kind of like experiential engagement spaces in stores, where demos can happen and you can try samples and things like that to make the shopping experience fun. It said like Costco, it's like everyone knows them for their samples. We want to kind of have that in every retail location as a motivational tool to get consumers out to kind of add that value there to make it like not as cumbersome and not as kind of uncomfortable to have to go to a store, park, walk through aisles and all that stuff, which online delivery kind of removes that, all those headaches. And now if, the younger generations are on their phone all the time, they're easily going to be like, well, hey, I could just order everything. Why do I need to go to a store and deal with that headache? And kind of being able to provide real world experiences in those stores, I think that's going to be the one thing that's going to really make a mark, with sample.
Can we double click on that? Because I've got my own opinion on the whole like pickup slash delivery grocery versus going in the store. Okay, right? COVID hits. What does everybody do? Picks up groceries, right? That was the hot thing. Everybody got theirs launched. It was damn near impossible to get a pickup space if you didn't reserve it a day, 2 days in advance for that slot. And you had to be there within that time slot, right? So that happened. Which was great, right? Nobody knew shit about what was going on in the world, and everyone was scared to
Yeah.
death they were going to die. So, right, you picked up your groceries, you felt safer. But now that we're out of it, I don't, I don't see much on the pickup side in the grocery sector. I will kind of like pin that because, like at Target, they're always freaking busy in the pickup, right? And
Yeah.
for me, I don't know. I'm trying just to unpack it because like Target, I feel like I don't care. Like I don't want to walk through Target because it is so massive. But as a maybe a chef and in the food industry, there's something about when I got removed from the grocery store, it really like messed with my psyche of like I want to be able to walk through the aisles and I actually want to see what's available, what is out there, and things again, to each their own. The outside of the perimeter of the store is usually your best friend, and the inside is the things we probably shouldn't eat as much. How do you know what the quality if I want to pick up beef, right? What's the
Oh,
quality of
yeah.
that cut? Like when I'm picking up certain things, I'm looking for certain marbling or certain fat. I don't want to just have some random person that's like, here's some pork chops and let me pick them up, throw them in a cart,
Yeah.
and they're they're 30% fat because they're on the tail end of a loin or something. So I'd love to hear both your opinions honestly on this. Is I don't know, like with the whole renaissance of people coming back to like the roots of like wanting to know where their food is. I don't know. Does it go more into delivery or and convenience? Because there was also a charge with that. I very much noticed that it gets upcharged if you pick up. They obviously have to cover that labor versus going in. So I'd love to, just dig into that a little bit more and what you think and on that topic in general.
I want to jump in real quick. With the one, I'll sum up my thoughts really in just one sentence. The pain of keeping inferior products and items that you get is going to be less than the pain of having to return it. And this is what the retailers are banking on. They're going to say, well, the cut of meat in your example, wasn't that great, but I can live with it. And that's reducing consumer choice. It comes to like, is the product going to expire tomorrow? Is there something, is the box damaged so I wouldn't put that thing in my cart? So, creating that balance of a pain point is definitely something that's going to be leveraged against the consumer.
Mm,
And I'll pick it up from there. So from what we learned during COVID and having all of the delivery and the pickup options is also has been great for accessibility. And I do see the benefits of those options, specifically if you're unable to leave the house, if you just had surgery, if you have other things that you're
right,
dealing with.
right.
I understand. But I'm also watching these apps do it. I'm quite an app user. I like my rewards, which is one of the reasons why I like Sample Finder. I use them the more that companies can pay for placement on their app, and this is something we're not doing with Sample Finder, and we can come back to that, but the more that happens, again, with the less options that you have. So when I am using GoPuff or if I'm using whatever I'm using, a DoorDash, whatever, um, I'm only getting a certain selection, and quite
Right.
honestly, those usually don't include small businesses, and I am somebody who cares about that. I'm also understanding of people who really want to make sure they're eating the right thing. They want to make sure what they're giving their kids is the right thing. They want to be looking at the package. And if something gets replaced in your bag because it's being delivered, you lose that. So all that to say is that creating an experience to go shopping and removing that like oh, it's a chore versus, oh, I get to explore and discover. And yeah, being a chef, like what new ingredients or what alternatives
Hmm.
can I try this time? Um, for fruits and vegetables as well. It's you want to be able to see it, but it goes for packaged goods too. Because if you're a small business and you finally got shelf placement, you matter too. So you want the people to be walking through and seeing your stuff on the shelf, and then you want to help the store get it off the shelf. So you might have demos to really promote it. And now people know who you are and they get to try it. They become brand loyal, retailers happy, brand is happy, user gets to be happy too because now they know what they're eating. They know what they yeah, are getting and picking out. So I see the benefits, I see the cons, and this is another way that will just help. Yeah, so what I was saying is a level playing field because we will not be having that type of um option to purchase the top spot. It is whatever's closest to you within the radius and the soonest. So small business can be right on top, even if this is their one and only demo.
So that's what it is. It's a pay to play game with the apps and what
Yes,
populates.
very much so.
I never equated two and two. I probably should have, but I never put those two together. Of you pay more, that obviously we're going to promote your products in for pickup because yeah, it's so weird. You know, you go to an app and you're like, ooh, I really want this. Especially to your point, if it's something smaller or niche, but you're very keen on it, and then you go and search for it, and you're like, I know they carry it. Why isn't it on the app? Why can't I buy this? That makes total sense. It's like, well, that brand probably doesn't have a big enough presence, and or they haven't paid enough to be in a slot for pickup or
Yeah.
delivery. That's yeah, that's insane to me. So how do you know with the brands that are partnering, they're going to go on to Sample Finder. You know, what does that look like? You know, what kind of metrics are you giving them? Obviously, you know, there's that feedback. It's what is the time deliverables? You know, for a brand that's listening, hey, this sounds like something that I want to do. You know, brands do it all the time in grocery stores or wherever in retail in general. You know, what are they going to get from the experience of putting their product onto the platform or activating, you know, a session or whatever with you guys?
Let's say first of all, it would be essentially free advertising of their promotional events. How it's going to work is if you utilize our agency, Polaris Brand Promotions, for the staffing, you'll get all the corresponding sampling events on Sample Finder for free. It's a value add. So that's number one is you're getting your product name out there and you're going to try to drive people to stores to try them in addition to the consumers that would be normally going to the store anyway. The second is by a very simple, kind of, almost like a Yelp style little review where it's, 1 to 5 stars, what did you like? You can click multiple boxes. Did you buy the product? And then they can write in feedback. So that feedback will be going directly back to our clients' brands for free, and then they can use that data to create customizable marketing campaigns like, oh, we want to send a free coupon every 3 months to everyone who bought who rated at least 4 out of 5 stars, who noted that they liked the product and that they bought it and that maybe that they put a positive comment on. So they're not only getting the exposure, they're also getting the kind of the anonymized to start. Can't make any long-term promises, but to start, the anonymized user data that they can then get. So it's almost like a combination of like a Yelp, an Eventbrite, and a focus group in a way, especially if you're launching in a market. Before you launch the entire product nationwide, you can get feedback on the taste, the packaging, things like that, from the consumers. Our brand ambassadors, they do an amazing job completing recap reports, but they are a little biased sometimes. They may say it was a little bit more positive feedback than it was. But by hearing directly from the consumers, you get a ton more information that you're getting just from our brand ambassador summary.
Okay,
That
two
was
things. I'm
very
sorry.
well
I'm
put, Al.
Yeah, I'm making a couple of notes because I don't want to forget. How do you keep the experience from turning it? I hate to say it this way. Yelp is a mess. Like I cannot go to Yelp anymore. The reviews are just horse shit. Like I'll just call it out. You can't use it anymore. And so it's like almost these review systems that we've used for so long of like, hey, I want to see what people think of something. I'll look at a place, again, take restaurants for example, and you'll
Sure.
be like, no, it's not a 2-star place. Like I've been there before. And then you start digging into the reviews and it's because somebody didn't get their water in the first 10
Yeah.
seconds that they sat down. And you're like, you gave a place a 1-star review because of that? Come on, you're really ruining what the whole point of the application was. So what's kind of, I guess, your guys' safeguard to make sure that it doesn't turn into another Yelp and it's just like, okay, great, there's another app out here and the reviews mean nothing because they're either paid for or it's just a bunch of bots.
So what we're going to do is we're going a little old school on this. We were originally going to do like a like a GPS based check-in to make sure that they were close by, but we didn't want anyone driving around just trying to collect points like crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
we are giving each brand ambassador a 6-digit code that the user has to physically go to the store to collect by engaging with the brand ambassador. That experience, that connection that makes our industry so amazing. And by doing that, then they can enter in that they checked in, then they can write their review. So that's like I think a very strong safeguard. It's nothing digital, except for giving the brand ambassador in advance what the 6-digit code is.
Right.
So, it's a little
Okay.
bit old school, but we really want those authentic in-person experiences, and that's the safeguard we have in place.
Yeah, and the brand is going to see this, so the other users will not necessarily see their reviews for phase one. So that will not affect negatively if somebody is
Mm,
having a bad day. They give a one-star review and they're like, I didn't like that I don't know. I didn't like that the table was set up in front of what I needed, and now I'm going to leave a bad review for the brand when it isn't even the
yes.
brand's fault. That
Right.
we will be monitoring it, especially to start monitoring and having everything run through and make sure we don't have like, just even vulgarity. We'll be being on top of that. But currently, the way that the app is set up is the brand will be the only ones receiving it, and if we see something like that, we'll share it, but we'll be like, "Okay, this is you understand that this has nothing to do with your product." And that rating is not going to show up. Like how Uber drivers get a rating and the one person might be having a bad day and now their Uber rating star review is going down, and it will not be like that. The brand review rating, none of that will be showing up. It is more specifically for the brand to get the feedback. So, somebody might be like, yeah, I really, really loved it, but I'm supposed to not be having as much sodium right now. So I thank you for the taste, but maybe make an option with less sodium. And now if they get enough of that, or say they're like, yeah, I love your ice cream. I use this example before all the time because I'm trying to be vegan and I love ice cream. But so if I went and I was sampling ice cream and I left a review like, "Hey, I love this, but could you please consider this?" If enough people are getting this type of feedback, you get to be speaking directly to the brand, and that's a very cool feature in a world where people love parasocial relationships. Let's face it, they do. But you get to feel like the brand has a personality as well. And if any brand is doing experiential marketing, they care about the personality that they're putting out there. So another touch point, another chance to learn more about your target audience and maybe make changes the way Al said, like you test it out in certain areas. Maybe next time you're like, okay, you know what? People really did like the sample, but they really wanted to have, if say it's an alcoholic drink, they love the sample, but a lot of feedback was given that they would like to try it in a drink. Okay, next round that we do, we're going to make drinks.
Mm,
We're going to be mixologists now, and our brand ambassadors will be trained. If they work with us, I will say that this is open even if you don't work with us. It's just you'll be listed for free if you do use our staffing services. So it's open to everybody. But yeah, then you get to learn. So that's how I don't want to be another Yelp.
good. Sidebar, you said you're trying to go vegan. You love ice cream. Have you had Eclipse ice cream?
No, I have not.
Okay, write
But
it down. Just like the
writing it
moon, it's
down, making a
called
note.
Eclipse, and look for the pink logo. It's unlike anything you've ever had. It's not just a coconut base or an almond base. Like it's a truly vegan product
Yep,
and
I do recognize
tastes.
the logo. Okay, I
Yes.
recognize
Okay.
the
I'm just
packaging.
throwing it out there, giving them some love. I've had it in the past. Love the product. Anyways,
Appreciate
back on
it.
subject. So then brands necessarily don't need these huge teams, right? It's almost kind of like in the manufacturing equipment world, there's reps all over the country, right? Manufacturers don't have these massive teams. They rely on these
Mhm,
rep groups all over the country. You
mhm.
kind of are that, but on the food side where the message can get out, they can get feedback, and they're not worrying about plane tickets and hotel stays. And I mean, what a person can only do so much, right? But you've got somebody that's localized and probably honestly, like from a demographic standpoint, knows how to talk to those people, right? If you're down in the South, it's a different dynamic than if you're up here in Chicago. It's completely different worlds,
Yeah.
and it probably would lend better, in my opinion, if somebody from that general area is sampling something, has the same dialect, etc., versus somebody that's from again from Chicago or Chicago, New York, and they have this weird accent, and they're just like, these are these city people. I don't want them. I would assume that's a huge benefit as well for these
Yeah.
brands if they jump on board.
Love that you said that because I that is not something that ever crossed my mind. It makes total sense. We love talking about local talent, but yes, you're talking to a member of your peers. Like this is somebody who lives in your state who knows and is trained to speak about it and it's in that role, it's almost building community. That's really cool. I'm glad you said that. Very good insight.
Well, I've gone around and done not sampling, but I've been to certain places, and people can tell that you're not from the area. They can
Yeah.
tell by again just the way you dress, the way you act, the way you talk that you're like, there's something about this person. They seem salesy, or they don't feel authentic per se
Yeah.
to the experience because they just want to push a product, whatever it might be. I don't know. It just kind of hit me in the back of the mind. Okay, so with the app, all right, we hit CES. You hit the couple things. When are we looking at for launch date for this? You know, what does that look like, or what is the roadmap for 2026?
We're targeting around April 1st. We're
Okay.
doing beta. We're kind of beta testing as it's being built, which is very unique through this thing called Test Flight on through like the Apple Developer Services. So yeah, so we're kind of building it and providing real time feedback as it goes, but it is, obviously a very slow process. With going through testing and building it and making sure the features work. So we're looking at really like doing a public launch around April and then getting our brand partners on board and really trying to do, I'd say around probably like July 1st, probably really starting to do like consumer marketing to kind of adopt some users and kind of build our user base from there.
Cool. Awesome. I just have some like weird off the wall questions because you guys are do sampling and it's just a very weird, like, no, I won't say weird. It's a very unique thing. I gotta know,
It
do you have any
is.
like horror stories of going out to do a sample and just like something crazy happened?
Man.
You first, Heather.
Yeah, I
I got one.
definitely yeah, I know you I think I might know yours. I've been in weird situations where, like, there was a snowstorm and, they didn't wanna cancel it, the store was still open, so I had to walk uphill in the snow to go do the sampling, and then, like, of course, not really that many people were there, and it's just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna talk about it, I'm still gonna do the best that I can," but when it's weather related, sometimes that's really hard. What's yours, Al?
All right. This did not happen to me personally, but we've done thousands of different, promo events, throughout the years. And I think the craziest story I ever heard was we had a brand ambassador who was representing our brand at a store. And the store called me because, obviously, in a supermarket, you have, your aisles just going, parallel
Hmm.
to each other. Well, some stores you've got like a perpendicular cut through that cuts through all of the aisles. Well, this brand ambassador managed to finagle it so that she was working two promos at the same time at the same store for two different agencies with two different brands. And what she did was like she like had like in the like it's like caddy corner to the she set up two tables like one category caddy corner to the other and just set them both up and was bouncing back and forth. And the craziest thing was like she denied it. The store called us because the store knew something was like really wrong. And then they're like, yeah, we're letting all the agencies know she's, blacklisted from, she's not allowed to do demos in here anymore. And, we called her and like they actually sent the security video, which was literally right above her head. And she's like, oh yeah, like she did, it's just denying it. Like, you know, and it was just like, I mean, our brand ambassadors, I mean, usually I would just say ballpark 25 to $35 an hour. They are independent contractors, so that's, pre-tax and pre-expenses and everything. But like they make good money. Like you go out, you can kind of like, pigeonhole in a little 3-hour demo, make, 75 to 105 plus dollars for doing like a 3-hour demo. Like, and you really want to try to like game the system on top of that? I'm like, come on, other little stories about, the only other one was BA was returning unused demo bottles and keeping the store credit for herself, so again, it's like you're looking at ruining your reputation. Sometimes this is actually breaking the law. I mean, it is theft to the agencies and to our clients, but yeah, that one is definitely like, I mean, props for the creativity there, but like,
That's what I was gonna
really,
say. I was gonna say you get
I was
creativity points, but
yeah,
yeah.
A
yeah.
for effort, F for execution. I mean, but
I
yeah,
mean,
so that
it's a better gig. It's got to be a better gig than driving Uber or some of these other things. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what Tom, Dick, Harry, or Sally
substantial,
you're gonna pick up when you could just go to
substantial.
a store and sample products all day and talk about it. But what are some of the hardest products to sample properly, like to get a message across? Like what would you say the hardest is?
Food that needs to be prepped and
Yeah.
like cooked on site. Like if we need to bring in a burner, if we need to like, cut things, prepare things, one of the craziest ones I ever dealt with was we had a client, they gave out like a little like carry-on size demo kit suitcase for making non-alcoholic, mocktails. Um, and they gave out like, like graters and knives and mix like, like shakers and things, and it was just like such overkill because they wanted like the product with a club soda and then like an orange like rind, like a little piece of orange peel or something. And I'm just like, and there was a cutting boards and everything. Like it's just very difficult to execute those just because of like all the logistics that need to come into that and
Yeah,
the
it makes sense.
expense,
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds
it's
like
possible.
regular demos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. It's possible to do them. It's just it's easier than if you have two people, maybe somebody who can like be doing the prep and another person who can be actually giving out the samples. And we see this all the time at trade shows where we help with food prep and we do that, and our brand ambassadors are in a higher level of there's a lot of people, but they're trained for that and they are helping on site. So we see food and beverage shows and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we want to be like prepping all of this stuff, but we also want to be handing out samples, but we also want to have meaningful conversations. And it's like, you need a brand ambassador to do all of that stuff. And speaking to your point, maybe a local one because they know the convention center that you're at and you don't have to fly them out and spend money for your team to go. So I know that takes it a little bit out of the store and the retail activations that we do, but we also do so many trade shows and festivals. And in that case, setting this type of stuff up is not as hard, but it is still always a challenge to just, make sure everything goes well, and that's why we have an excelling operations team that I don't know if I mentioned this, but we interview every brand ambassador before we work with them, and we have close to 10,000 brand ambassadors nationwide. So we are very on top of the type of personality we're sending out. And then on top of that, we have training, and it is all customizable types of training to help the more complicated and customizable services that we do offer run smoothly.
I didn't even think about food shows.
Yeah.
It's that time of the year, especially in the food world. I got the first one of mine coming up at the end of this month, and then NRA's around the corner, and
Yeah.
the pizza shows coming. They're popping up everywhere. I see them all
Yeah.
over
We've been
LinkedIn.
to the pizza show.
I never thought about trade shows, and it could also be a benefit too. Now that I'm thinking, even to a food broker, right? There's so many food
Yeah.
brokers that need support. I don't know if you guys ever work with food brokers or not, but they try to have their own, like they represent so many brands, but again, there's only so many of them that can support. So I don't know. I like the concept. It's a very unique and interesting niche segment that
Yeah.
why I had to talk to you guys. Is I was like, this is a really cool piece of the food and beverage world that, like you said, that nobody's ever heard of, and they wouldn't think of it as being something. So anything that we didn't talk about today that you guys want to talk about?
Hmm.
The only other thing I would say is the sample finder, like the gamification and the rewards.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, this is where, and this is kind of Heather's brainchild. Yeah, do you want to jump in on this one, Heather, and kind of talk about like, the
Yeah, I
rewards?
will. I will in the sense of like making it fun because okay, we're talking about food. Everybody eats. We all need to multiple times a day. Like, but what is it? What are you going to do? And then how can you get the most out of it health wise? And how can you have fun doing it? And I mentioned that grocery shopping can be a chore, but so can, putting together snacks for, kid lunches and like all of this stuff. And how do you make that fun? Well, going to these sampling events, finding what's happening in your area, and making it sort of gamified where, we will be having trivia questions that goes back to the marketing side of it. You can answer questions about like new favorite brands, learn as you're doing it, and earn points. When you check in, you get points, leave a review, you get points, and these points will be turned into down the road chances to win more food products, discounts, monthly sweepstakes, points adding up into new types of experiences potentially. Lots of ways that this can go. But yeah, we're launching in later this year. April 2026 is the goal. If you go to samplefinder.com, you can put in your email address and get notified just so that you know when it's coming out and stay on top of everything. Yeah, just wanted to plug that so that your listeners can follow along the journey as well. We're on Instagram and social media.
Yeah, I was going to ask to plug all those.
Yeah,
You already did it. You already did it for me. But I want to
I
make a point
started
on the
to.
gamification because my kids, right, they're at that age, 9 and 7. Tech is they know phones inside and out. There's things that they do on my phone that I didn't even know that a phone could do, which is really sad when I am a tech person myself. But they're always like they're different, like they're doing their rewards, their daily check-ins. And to me, I'm like, ooh, this sounds kind of like a free way, in a sense, to take the kids somewhere and do something and not right. Everything costs money nowadays. You take them to this place and it's $200 to go bowling nowadays. Why not go to the grocery? I mean, grocery stores are my jam. So it's
Yeah.
therapy. It's just I get out of the house, I can walk aisles, and when my kids get to come, they get to see things. They're asking questions about products. They're helping put things in shop. I don't know, just becoming a human being, like in society, like they should become. And I don't think
Yeah.
that happens enough. But they would be asking me, I guarantee you, hey, did oh, there's a sample. Did you log in and get your points? I guarantee you that if you like turned it into like a family type thing as well, that your kids would jump on. And to your point, now it's learning, now it's education. It's not just brands uh, signing up to be on an app and getting feedback, which they need and they want. But now you're bringing it all together with both the consumer, the brand, and everybody all together. So I really like what you're doing. I'm super excited to see how it all plays out. I'll have to get a follow up from y'all in April, see how everything's going.
Yeah.
Any other socials to plug besides Sample Finder if they want to contact you guys directly on anything?
Yeah, so our Instagram handles and Facebook and all of that is Sample Finder app. Our agency, if you're interested in working with us and learning more about our services, is Polaris Brand Promotions. And both of those are also the website. So samplefinder.com, polarisbrandpromotions.com. You can reach out in any of those ways. It's going to be one of the two of us responding to you. So you'll be speaking directly with the co-founders and with the team and the owner of the agency. We like to keep it very personable. You can ask us questions. If you just are interested in knowing more, we're happy to talk to you. Very open to sharing what we do and helping other brands.
Cool. Anything else from you, Al?
No, just, it's just we're so excited and like, overwhelmed at, how quickly this has come about. I mean, this was just an idea. I think like now it's 8 months ago, and we've already exhibited CES and NRF, and we're really excited to be kind of, using this to set our agency apart, not only as a way to staff promotions, but also to promote them. One of the things that really kind of like one of those case studies that came to mind was I think it was Mr. Beast launched Mr. Beast Burger up at the American Dream Mall, and I think they had like 10,000 people that showed up from, that drove and show up from God only knows how long and how much distance just for, and I don't know what the giveaways were, but I'm sure they gave away some, merch or swag or something
Yeah.
just for a grand opening and just, I guess, for the chance to maybe see Mr. Beast in person. I'm like, if if people are willing to do that out there, and we can flood them with different opportunities like this on like a smaller scale, like, well, certainly not a major YouTube celebrity appearance. If we can get that kind of excitement on a consistent basis with consumers, then I think this is really going to make a difference in the retail space.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Everyone listening, go check out Sample Finder. Download it when it comes out in the store. So mark your calendars for April. If you like this episode, want to hear more, be sure to check out all the other previous episodes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. You know where to find us at Fell Into Food. So Heather, Al, thanks again for your time today. Really appreciate everything. And until next time, we'll catch you on the sunny side.
Thank you.